The dealership smelled like carpet cleaner and new plastic. Saturday in April. My friend Marcus had found his dream car, a used 2016 Dodge Charger, black, 47,000 miles, listed at 21,500 plus fees. He needed a co-signer because he was 20 with no credit history. I was 19 with a part-time warehouse job making $14.50 an hour and a credit score I had never once checked, which is like agreeing to play poker without looking at your cards. The salesman handed me a stack of papers. I remember the pen was heavy, one of those brushed metal ones they keep at dealerships to make signing feel important instead of dangerous. I didn't read the terms. I didn't know what APR meant. I didn't know what jointly and severally liable meant, which, for anyone who also doesn't know, means if he doesn't pay, you pay. Not half, all of it. Every dollar. I signed because Marcus was my best friend, because he looked at me and said, "Bro, I got this. I just need your name." Sha, and because at 19 your sense of loyalty is bigger than your financial vocabulary by about a mile and a half. The total with interest over 72 months, $28,740. Marcus made 3 payments. I made the next 6 years. I'm not telling you this so you feel sorry for me. And I'm definitely not telling you this so you avoid co-signing a car loan. You already know that's stupid, and hearing it from me won't stop the next 19-year-old from doing it anyway. I'm telling you this because that signature, the single dumbest financial decision I've ever made, enrolled me in a financial education that doesn't exist in any classroom or any YouTube video about building wealth, the kind you can only get from inside a financial disaster. Because when $23,000 of debt lands on your credit report at 19, you learn things about money that comfortable people never learn. Not because they're less smart, because the machine never turned on for them. 3 lessons, each one pulled from a different layer of the wreckage. Each one worth more than the disaster cost me. But only because I had no choice but to learn them. Here's what happened in the 90 days after Marcus made his last payment. Pay attention, because this is the sequence that nobody teaches, and it's the sequence that decides whether a financial mistake buries you or becomes negotiable. Day 1 through 30. The lender reports the missed payment to 3 credit bureaus. 1 missed payment. My score dropped 93 points. Overnight, I went from a 680 I'd never thought about to a 587 that suddenly controlled everything. Apartment applications, phone plans, even car insurance rates. 1 payment I didn't even make. Day 31 through 60. Late fees start compounding. The original missed payment was $387. By day 60, 2 missed payments plus fees. $836. The balance is growing and nobody is driving the car. It's sitting in Marcus's driveway. I'm doing math on my phone at lunch. Day 61 through 90. The lender sends a default notice. This word sounds like an ending. It's the beginning of a completely different process most people don't know exists. Day 90 through 180. The lender charges off the loan. This sounds like they forgave it. They did not. Not even close. A charge-off means the lender writes it off as a loss on their books and sells the debt to a collection agency. Here's the number that rewired my understanding of money. They sold $23,000 of my debt for approximately $1,100. 4 to 7 cents on the dollar. Remember that number. It becomes the most important piece of information in this entire video. Because here's what the collection agency knows that you don't. They bought your debt for pennies. Their business model is buying $23,000 debts for $1,100 and then calling you at 7 a.m. with a voice that sounds like a courtroom to convince you that you owe the full amount. That legal action is coming, and your only option is to pay everything or get destroyed. They're not lying exactly. You do owe it. But the full amount isn't the only number on the table. They paid $1,100. Anything above that is profit. If you pay $5,000 on a debt they bought for $1,100, they've made a 354% return. They're thrilled. You just saved almost $20,000. But you'll never know this option exists unless someone who's been inside the machine tells you. And that's what the next 6 years taught me. 3 pieces of financial knowledge, each one invisible from the surface, each one extracted from a different stage of the disaster. The first is about the debt itself, and how the collection supply chain turns a $23,000 catastrophe into a $3,400 negotiation. The second is about your credit score and the behavioral weighting system that controls recovery speed in ways no pamphlet explains. The third is about your money and the forensic audit that showed me where my income was actually disappearing, dollar by dollar, in a way no app ever managed. 3 artifacts from the wreckage. And the first one starts with a phone call I almost ruined. The call that changed everything wasn't the negotiation call. It was the one before it. 6:58 a.m. on a Wednesday. I was sitting in my car in the warehouse parking lot, 20 minutes early for my shift. Nothing to do but stare at my phone and listen to my engine tick as it cooled. Same voice as always, professional, detached, like reading a menu at a restaurant where the food is your financial future. She asked if I was prepared to make a payment arrangement, and I said something I'd never said out loud to anyone. I make $1,840 a month. After rent and bills, I have $230 left. I can't afford to eat some weeks. I don't have a payment arrangement. I have $230. There was a pause. Then she said in a completely different voice, human, not scripted. Have you considered offering a lump sum settlement? We can sometimes work with a reduced amount. I said, what does that mean? She said, it means we might accept less than the full balance. I didn't know that was possible. I'd been getting these calls for 9 months, and nobody had ever mentioned that paying less than everything was an option. The person trying to collect my debt accidentally taught me how to negotiate it. That's how broken the information gap is. The collector had to break script to show me the door. So I went home and searched. Found a forum post with the most valuable sentence I've ever read about money. Collection agencies buy charged-off debt for 4 to 7 cents on the dollar. You have more leverage than they want you to know. Here's how it works. The version they don't print on the letters. When you default, the lender sells your account. An entire secondary market exists for bad debt. Companies buying defaulted accounts in bulk at massive discounts, then collecting from people who don't know the math. Portfolios sell for 4 to 7 cents per dollar of face value. So when a collection agency calls and says, you owe $23,000, technically true, but they paid roughly $1,000 to $1,600 for the right to collect it. Every dollar above their purchase price is profit. They don't need the full amount. They need you to not know what they paid. Here's the protocol I used. Exact words. Because the difference between vague and precise can be $15,000. First call, never negotiate. Say, I need to verify this debt in writing. Please send validation. Legally required under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Buys you 30 days. Once you have the validation letter, I'd like to resolve this account. I can offer a lump sum of 15 to 20% of the original debt as settlement in full. They'll counter at 60, 70%. Theater, stay at your number. Then, I understand this account was purchased as part of a charged-off portfolio. I'm offering a fair resolution that provides a return on your investment. You don't need to name the exact purchase price. That one phrase tells them you know the supply chain. I started at $3,000. They countered at $14. We settled at $3,400. 2 installments over 60 days. For $23,000 in debt. Because I knew what they paid for it. $480. That was my credit score 6 months after the charge-off. If you've never been below 500, here's what that number does to your daily life. You can't rent without a co-signer. Ironic, given how I got here. Can't finance a phone. $400 deposit to turn on electricity. Car insurance rate practically doubles. Some employers check credit during hiring. A three-digit number tells every system you touch. This person is a risk. I checked my score for the first time after default on my phone, in the bathroom, because I didn't want anyone to see my face when the number appeared. My thumb hovered over the Reveal Score button the way you'd hover over anything you need to know but don't want to see. When 480 appeared, my brain didn't process it right away. For half a second I thought a digit was missing. Credit scores are supposed to start with a 6 or a 7. Then it settled. Not a gasp, not tears, just a heaviness in my arms. Like my body was trying to put itself down somewhere. At 480, I assumed I was financially dead for 7 to 10 years. That's what Google tells you. Negative marks stay on your report for 7 years. True, but what Google doesn't tell you is that the weight of those marks decreases over time, and that the scoring algorithm cares far more about what you're doing right now than what you did 3 years ago. My score went from 480 to 712 in 14 months. Not by waiting 7 years. By understanding what the algorithm actually rewards. Here's what the pamphlet tells you. 35% payment history. 30% amounts owed. 15% length of history. 10% new credit. 10% credit mix. Technically accurate. Practically useless. It doesn't tell you how each factor is weighted over time. What I learned tracking my score every 2 weeks for 14 months, the model uses recency decay. A missed payment from 4 years ago carries roughly a quarter of the weight of one from 4 months ago, constantly recalculating based on your most recent 12 to 24 months. So if you've had a credit disaster, the fastest recovery isn't waiting for marks to fall off. It's flooding the recent window with positive signals. Not all signals are equal. A $300 secured card with a $90 balance paid monthly generates more recovery than paying a $5,000 balance down to $3,000. Utilization ratio per account weighs heavier than raw debt reduction. Here's the rebuild protocol. Month 1. Secured credit card. 200 to 500 as collateral matching credit line. Only product available below 500. Months 1 through 6. 1 recurring purchase. Gas. Groceries. Utilization below 10%. Pay the full balance before the statement closes. The statement date, not the due date. Whatever's showing when the statement generates is what gets reported. Pay before that, and bureaus see zero balance plus on-time payment. Months 6 through 8. Apply for 1 unsecured card. Score should be high 500s to low 600s. Same protocol. Months 8 through 14. 2 accounts with 6+ months of clean behavior dominating the recent window. By month 14, the behavioral signal. This person manages credit with discipline. Outweighed the historical event. 712. Not by erasing the past, by making the present louder. Now here's the artifact that doesn't require a disaster to use. This one is for everyone watching. Whether your credit score is 480 or 780, this applies to you right now. After settling the debt and starting the credit rebuild, here was my monthly reality at 20. $18.40. Take home from the warehouse. Rent, $675. The only apartment that would take me with a 480 score. A unit that smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes, with a faucet that ran brown for the first 10 seconds. Car insurance at post-default rate, $310. Phone, $85. Utilities, $140 average. Gas, $130. Health insurance through the warehouse, $110. Minimum food, $160. Total locked costs, $1,610. Remaining for everything else, every unexpected expense, every social plan, every piece of clothing, every medical copay, every single thing that makes life more than pure survival, $230. Per month, about $7.66 per day. When your margin is $7 and change, You develop a relationship with money that most people never build. Because you can't not notice it. Every dollar is visible. Every purchase is a decision. And the first thing you discover is something uncomfortable. You have no idea where your money has been going your entire life. So I did something tedious that turned out to be the most financially transformative exercise of my life. For 30 days, I wrote down every transaction. Not in an app, in a pocket notebook. The coffee, $4.85. ATM fee, $3. Spotify I forgot I had, $10.99. A gym membership I hadn't used in 5 weeks, $24.99. A DoorDash order, $14 for the food, $9.40 in fees and tip. An annual app subscription that hit for $79.99, which works out to $6.67 a month, but registers as zero because you only see it once a year. After 30 days, I added it up. The number made me nauseous. Not because it was big, because I had no idea it existed. $347 a month on things I never consciously decided to buy. Auto renewals, habitual micro purchases, convenience fees I'd never read. More than my entire margin. Ghost spending. Money leaving my account without ever registering as a choice. You have ghost spending right now. I don't know your income or your bills, but you're losing somewhere between 15 and 25% of your discretionary money to transactions you wouldn't approve if each one required a conscious choice. There's a difference between reading about a city on a map and being lost in it for a week. The map reader knows the street names and the landmarks. The person who got lost knows which alleys connect, where the numbers skip, where the locals eat, how to find north when your phone dies. Both know the city. One can navigate it blind. I didn't learn the financial map. I learned the streets, and they don't match the map. So here's what $23,000 of catastrophic debt at 19 actually bought me by 25. I learned that debt is a negotiable commodity, that knowing the supply chain turns a $23,000 sentence into a $3,400 settlement. I learned the credit score is a behavior report with recency bias, that 14 months of deliberate pattern building can outweigh years of damage. And I learned the biggest threat to your financial life isn't one catastrophic mistake. It's the $347 a month leaving your account that you'd never notice unless poverty forced you to track every dollar. That cosign at 19 was the most expensive tuition I'll ever pay. But the degree it forced on me is the only one that's ever paid me back. I spent 6 years learning those 3 things the hard way. You're going to learn them in 72 hours. Not because I'm teaching you, because you're going to do them. Hour 1 through 24. The Ghost Spending Audit. Pull your bank and credit card statements from last month. Go line by line. Mark every charge you don't remember making, every subscription or auto renewal, every fee. Add them up. That's your ghost spending. You've been paying it monthly without voting on it. Hour 24 through 48. The Credit Score Decode. Pull your report free from Annual Credit Report. Don't just check the number. Read the accounts. Every balance, every utilization percentage. A card at 67% utilization hurts more than a late payment from 3 years ago. A forgotten account with 0 balance and 8 years of history. One of your most valuable assets. Most people have never read their report. The score is a summary. The report is the diagnostic. Hour 48 through 72. The Negotiation Rep. Pick one bill you've always accepted at face value. Call and say 6 words. Is there any flexibility on this? If no, is there a retention offer or loyalty adjustment? Most prices are built with room that 95% of customers never touch. One call, one question. That's 72 hours. That's the starter version of the 6-year degree I earned from the worst decision of my life, compressed into 3 evenings and 1 awkward phone call. That signature at 19 cost me $3,400 in settlement, $4,200 in fees, $8,300 in elevated insurance premiums, and a friendship I haven't recovered. Roughly $16,000 and one person I used to trust completely. But that disaster forced an education that saved me over 40,000 since. I'm not grateful for it. But the degree it gave me is the only one that ever showed me how money actually moves. And it's available to you without the tuition. 72 hours, 3 tools, 0 catastrophe required. The dumbest financial decision of my life at 19 didn't make me smart. It made me visible to a financial system that runs on your blindness. I spent 6 years mapping it from the inside. You can spend 72 hours learning the map. The wreckage was mine. The artifacts are yours. Tell me your tuition. Not the regret, the lesson. Don't tell me you co-signed a loan. Tell me what you learned from co-signing a loan. The specific piece of financial mechanics you'd never have discovered if you hadn't been inside the wreckage. Name the tuition and name the degree. Because every financial disaster contains a curriculum. Most people only remember the invoice. Subscribe if you want content that reverse engineers financial mistakes into financial mechanics. One wreckage site at a time.